So, imagine if there was a president that I told you about who started off from a small town in Illinois and went from small town Illinois to Hollywood actor, and from there eventually became the president of the United States. Sounds like it could be a fairy tale dream for most people, but for one person, this dream became a reality. That person is now seen in today's world as one of the most historical and greatest presidents of all time, and even earned himself the nickname the Great Communicator. Today I'll be giving you information discussing the legacy of former President Ronald Reagan, who served as the President of the United States from 1980 to 1989. There are three main ideas about Reagan I will discuss. First will be discussing his life and background before he got involved into politics, then his life into how he got his rise into politics, and from there becoming president, and finally finish with informing you about the impact he had not only on the United States as a country, but also the global impact he had on the world as well. All right. So before I start off, just a quick verbal quote I found online that demonstrates kind of the capacity of the impact that he had. So this is stated by author Steve Treader in the article Ronald Reagan, Peter Ubroth in the 1980s. He states that it demonstrated Reagan's exceptional capacity to fundamentally and repetitively not only to reinvent himself, to reimagine and reconstruct the Ronald Reagan brand. Thus, he amazingly transformed from a B-picture lightweight into an 8-term president of the Screen Actors Guild, and from the New Dealer Democrat into a right-wing Republican. So, starting up, Ronald Reagan was born on February 6, 1911 in Topeka, Illinois. He was raised there. After high school, he went ahead in 1928, enrolled in Eureka College in Illinois, where he was an athlete. He also was involved in the Drama Society as well. He went ahead, graduated in 1932 with a degree in both sociology and economics. From there, once he finished high school and college, he, in the meantime, started off as a radio sportscaster for a couple small stations in Iowa. Then, he had a dream of being an actor in Hollywood growing up. In 1937, this became true when he won a screen test competition, which led to him getting the role in his first movie, Love is on the Air, which debuted in 1937. His film career lasted decades, with it going from his first film, Love is on the Air, in 1937, through various movies and TV shows, all the way up until October of 1965. Now we'll talk about his rise into the political world. Reagan, growing up, was a lifelong Democrat, but as he grew up, got older, and saw everything in the world, he decided that the democratic values that he learned from his dad no longer represented what he wanted the world to be like. So, in 1962, he switched himself from a Democrat and officially registered as a Republican. From there, he got involved in the political party in the 1964 election, when he campaigned in California as a supporter of then Republican president candidate Barry Goldwater. He got his major rise from there, from when he did the speech of "It's time for choosing." But even with his backing, Reagan did that, but Goldwater still lost the election to Lyndon B. Johnson, who was running for re-election. After that, Reagan decided that while he was in Hollywood, he wanted to shine in politics. So then, in 1966, 2 years later, he went ahead and won the nomination for the Republican Party for the governor of California. Went ahead, ran against the incumbent, won, and then officially took over as governor of California in 1967. He served as the governor of California from 1967 all the way until 1975. From there, he went ahead, challenged Gerald Ford to the Republican Party ticket, Reagan lost to Ford, but Reagan wasn't done. He went ahead and did the next election, the 1980 election, which he won and defeated Jimmy Carter. From there, he wanted to institute policies all over America to reinstate everything and get America out of the recession that was caused by the Carter administration in the 70s. Found this interesting fact when I was doing my research that when Reagan took office, inflation was at a percentage of 13.5% when he took office. And by the time that Reagan left office after 8 years, it went from 13.5 all the way down to 5.5%. So, as you can tell, he had quite the big impact. So, lastly, we'll talk about so that leads me into my next segment, which is the impact he had on the U.S., which, as I stated, we can already tell that was a big thing. So, not only did he have an impact on the U.S., but he also had an impact on a global scale in a time of global uncertainty during the Cold War, at the height of it, with the Soviet Union. Reagan's known for the great communicator came from his actions and time as an actor. One of the things that he did during his time to help gain support and also not only convince the American public but also citizens and people around the world was that starting in 1982 he had a radio show that he would do every day. So this was from an article, the Saturday News had Saturday Radio Addresses of Ronald Reagan. This article is by Robert C. Rowland and John M. Jones. From 1982 until the end of his presidency, Reagan presented radio addresses on nearly every significant and some that were not so significant political controversy of the time and a host of ceremonial topics. Forgot to do this, but as you can see, this was Reagan with Barry Goldwater when he started, and then Reagan for governor, and then this was Reagan's campaign poster when he ran in the first election. And then you have Reagan when he ran for re-election. When he ran for re-election, he ran against Walter Mondale, which in that case became one of the biggest landslide elections of all time, which he won every state of the U.S. with the exception of Minnesota. So, takes us to the last part of this, which was his impact that he had on the most important global conflict, which was the Soviet Union in the Cold War. Reagan used his skills as a communicator and through that, and policy and legislation with the House and the Senate, helped create a world where the U.S. had essentially in different areas, economically, socially, democratically, put a lot more pressure on the Soviet Union, which in the end led to its eventual downward and collapse. So, to quote my last verbal citation I want to do is, here it is. So this was from the article Ronald Reagan and the Defeat of the Soviet Empire by Andrew Bush, in which he wrote, in the words of Margaret Thatcher, President Reagan strengthened not only America's defenses, but also the win of American allies. Former Japanese Prime Minister Yashiro Nakasone similarly praised Reagan for having put the tumble-down house called the free world back in shape again, shoring up the pillars and tightening the bolts. So, as I just told you about all these things about Ronald Reagan's life and the impact that he's had, I started off by giving you his information about his background, where he was from, his rise into politics, and then not only that, but the success that he had as the President of the United States and the impact he had in shaping the U.S. to what it is today and around the world. So at the end, Reagan went from a Hollywood B-list actor to becoming one of the most famous and accomplished presidents of all time, and is commonly looked up to today by most of the Republican Party as the gold standard. Thank you, and that is it.